All right, we are here with Sean well, I'll let him tell you what district from. Sean, how are you? Good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Of course, dude. Of course, absolutely. Thanks for making the time. I know it's nuts. So, as you know, we've got 5 questions that we go through with all the candidates just to kind of keep things fair. But we'll probably go off on some tangents too, because that's just my nature, and I can't help myself. But let's start with question number 1. What district are you running for, and where does that cover?
Well, thank you again, Cory, and the chamber for allowing me to be on here real quick. This year I'm running for House District 50. As you know, we redistrict all the districts, so all the districts got some new additions and new numbers. Thankfully for me and for our district in the city of Bath, nothing changed. The only thing that changed was the number. So formerly I was House District 52. Now we're House District 50. So we're running for House District 50 this year, and but it's still all the city of Bath, no additions, nothing less. So that's nice.
And if people look at some of the other districts, I've got a explainer out there and trying to explain some of them where it's like, it's from this road to that road in this community, and then it goes to that county. And for yours, it's just like, it's Bath. Done.
Yep.
That feels nice. So that's great. Yeah. And so, Sean, this is going to be, if you're elected, your 3rd term, right?
Yes, this will be my 3rd term. I was elected in a special election back in 2019. And I started about 3-4 months into the session. So this will be my 3rd election, but my 2nd full term.
Full cycle. Yeah. That's great. All right. Question number 2. Tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for office.
Yeah. Well, again, my name is Sean Paulhus, and I am currently the state representative for the city of Bath in the legislature. I've served on Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, and most recently I've served on the state and local committee, which I really enjoyed being on that committee because of my background. I served 13 years on the city of Bath City Council, representing Ward 2, which is from basically Lehman Highway down to Pine Street in the south end. I did, like I said, I did that for 13 years. I just got off the council beginning of this year. But I was vice chair for a number of years on the council. And then also professionally, I've worked as Maine Senate Sergeant at Arms for several years. I was the assistant to the state auditor for a few years. I also worked in the House of Representatives chamber staff for a year. So before I became a state representative, I worked at the State House and got to know it very well. But one of the big reasons why I run is to give voice for working families like myself and my wife. We're raising 4 kids, from oldest is 16 to our youngest is a year old.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you. So 3 of our kids are in the Bath school system. We have 1 at the high school, 1 at the middle school, and 1 at Dyke Newell right now. And my wife and I both work full time. This being in the legislature is not a full-time gig. You have to also have another source of income, and so I work full-time as a security officer over at Bowdoin College currently. So that makes it tough kind of schedule-wise sometimes, but I think it's good to have someone raising kids, paying bills that many of my neighbors and stuff are also trying to do, and to have that voice of someone who is experiencing the same things that we all are in the legislature.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of a citizen legislature that we have is, yes, it is tough because you're balancing so many things, but also you're not in some ivory tower somewhere. You're down here living it, and that makes you accessible to a lot of people so they can share their thoughts and their ideas with you. But yeah, I knew your service went back a number of years, so that's great. Question 3, what are the top 3 issues affecting Mainers right now that you look forward to working on if elected?
Well, I think as most people know, like inflation is a big thing that people are all dealing with on every level. And that is affecting every form of government from local all the way up to federal. Also, like going into the winter, we're like, I was just listening on the radio this morning about heating assistance and stuff. So we're going to definitely need to tackle those kind of issues as well. But one issue I think definitely that has been an ongoing issue, and one that we need to continue to be on top of is housing, affordable housing, especially. It's a big issue in the mid-coast area, especially. And that's one that we need to really look at. We did some things in the most recent legislature to try to help communities and help the state, but like I said, it's an ongoing issue, and I think it's one that is affecting a lot more people than we realize, and we need to really stay on top of it, or it's going to get worse.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm hearing it from businesses. I mean, we're hearing it from workforce. One of the interesting workforce things that's happening is demographically, we just don't have as many people. And so it's really, workforce development has never really had to look at the societal issues because they've always had more people. And so now we're looking at that unemployed block of people. And for the ones that want to work, we got to figure out what their barriers to getting to work are, whether that's transportation, whether that's childcare, or whether that is housing. And so workforce is now starting to look at that and saying, hey, I mean, BIW, I'm sure you can speak to what they say, but from what I hear is they're hiring a bunch of people. And in the summertime, in the spring, summer, fall, they live in their trucks or they go to a campground, and in the winter they quit because there's no place for them to stay. And I think what it is partly too is we have so many people that retire from this area, and when most people retire in other parts of the country, they go to wherever their retirement life is going to be, whether that's Florida or Arizona or whatever. And so many people like, I love living here, I'm just going to stay here, which is fine, which is great. We love to have you here, but their house is still going to be occupied by them. So whoever's replacing them in their job, that inventory is not there. So you need to build and find more inventory. It's a challenge that I think every town council, every city council, every state is going to attack, and it's going to take a lot of people working together to solve it, for sure.
Definitely.
Other things, I mean, the tough thing about the 3 issues is it's like, inflation. There's 7 different parts of inflation. And you mentioned heating oil, you mentioned housing. Is there any other things that you wanted to hit on? I don't want to limit you to just 3 if there's other things.
I think those are kind of like the big 3, especially, but I mean, there's always other issues that, you hear from local citizens that will be coming up as well. Definitely like you mentioned, the daycare workers, that's an issue that I've heard, and definitely one that I've, me and my wife have experienced, and my sister just had a baby, and my sister-in-law just had a baby like within the year. And so, they're having to decide and figure those things out. And that's another area where I think all levels need to be proactive and think of new ways and support the workers that we have, and get more people involved in that, because that affects so many things on all levels.
That's where the housing bill you referred to, which LD 2003, the accessory dwelling units get really interesting there, because it's like, hey, if your parents can't afford to live in senior care or really shouldn't be living on their own, and you get one of these accessory dwelling units on your property, a mother-in-law apartment, just for ease of understanding. Maybe that can also be some of your childcare. Is your grandparents can watch, the kids, and I think you're going to start to see more of these creative type solutions and maybe multi-generational homes and
Yeah,
or living, situations.
definitely. That's definitely a mix of that.
Yeah. I know right now, we're squarely in the middle class. My wife and we have a 16-month-old and she works from home. She works from home and we put him in daycare 2 days a week, but that's because it's what we can afford is 2 days a week.
Right.
And she watches him the other 3 days. And it's like, I don't know what we would do. She wasn't working, and I do fine. I do fine financially.
Yeah.
I'm not struggling. It's like it's a real beast.
No, it certainly is. I mean, like, well, I also have a 16-month-old as well, and
Right.
so, and my wife works part-time and I work full-time, but the way our schedule is that we can be home.
Right.
One of us is home when the kids, especially our youngest, of course, because the older ones are in school during the day. But yeah, that's definitely. And then when my son was born and stuff, my wife was working full-time and I was working full-time, and we had a family member watching him, and pretty much most of one of our paychecks was just going to pay for childcare. So it was like, where's the benefit really if we're just working to pay for childcare? And so it's that dynamic of trying to find that balance for people, and some people don't have a choice and stuff.
Well, last point, I can talk about the others. But it's also, this is where businesses need to start being flexible. Like, if your kids are old enough to go to school, what about offering a 9 to 2 shift to parents that want to be, there to put the kids on the bus and then there when they get home, but are happy to work those 5 hours, 6 hours in the middle of the day. Great. Let's maybe figure that out. Maybe that can help some of our staffing and some other things like that. So
no, I totally agree. I think it's like it has to come from like all levels, like the business community and government, and I think one thing, some of the lessons, obviously, I'm sure you've heard, like coming out of the COVID experiences, like the homework, working from home and stuff. So I mean, maybe like some of that flexibility. I know some places they've continued that for some of their workers, but if there's some flexibility of like both, being able, like you said, come in 9 to 2 and then maybe have like another hour or two at home or vice versa. I think that really needs to be kind of looked at on all levels, because it is a major source of, like you said, like some people are in the middle class and totally in a, you're doing well, but you're still trying to find a balance of like, how do you do this? And, and the expense of it, it's still, and I give a lot, it is tricky. And I give a lot of credit to the workers who work in childcare and stuff. And, they need to be definitely supported because they're doing, a big lift for a lot of people. And a lot of them are juggling those same issues.
Those same things. Absolutely. All right. Question number 4, if voters can know only 2 things about you before they fill out their ballot, what would those 2 things be?
I think one thing for sure is like, I believe that public service is a noble and honorable thing. I know watching the TV ads and watching, especially right now, it doesn't seem like it. But I truly believe that, public service is a thing that everyone should get involved in. I don't think everyone needs to necessarily have to run for something, but even just voting is a public service. And I think for me, I think it's something that I'm trying to teach my kids. And I think teaching the younger generation that, getting involved in government is not a bad thing. Do we get it always right? No, we don't always get it right. But the fact that you're trying and being involved and being a better citizen for it is a good thing. So that's where I look at public service, and it can be at any level from school board to city council to the legislature and beyond. So that's what I believe, and that's why I love being able to serve
Yeah.
my home and my community. And then just second, like I'm from Bath. I love this community. I went to school, I graduated from Morris. I went to college in Ohio, came right back to Bath, and because I knew this is where I wanted to be. And like I was saying before, I think having a voice in the legislature, someone who is working full time, who's juggling those same kind of issues that, how to pay our bills sometimes and raising kids. And I think having someone in the legislature, because yes, we do have a citizen legislature, but it's not always easy to find that balance. And I definitely am, it's a struggle sometimes because so sometimes the legislature is geared towards people who, either don't have younger kids, or
Right.
their kids are older, or they're retired or about to retire, or they have jobs that make it more flexible for them. And so I want to make sure, and I've seen, having worked at the legislature, that sometimes people get up there, but they can only do like 1 or 2 terms, and then they have to leave because of the time is just not available. And so I think there's a large portion of our population that needs a voice and needs someone who can, bring those experiences to the discussion and the debates in the legislature. And that's what I've always tried to do, and will continue to do if reelected up in the legislature.
Yeah, so I think that public service piece is so vital, and it really resonates with who you are. I mean, you've proven it over a decade and a half now that you're at least that this is what you do, and yeah, you're a hometown boy,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. Last question: what's the best way for people to connect with you and find out more about you as a candidate?
Well, I have Facebook page, Sean Paulhus, for state representative. My contact information's at the legislature, as well, email and phone number. So it's really easy to get a hold of me, and I'm usually around in town.
Right.
So
Or I'm around, or you'll see me at your door.
Yeah.
So we'll put the Facebook page in the description of the video as well. So
Yeah.
if anyone's looking for that. Thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are as a family man, as a working man, and out knocking on doors. So thank you for making the time, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right.